Hey, I'm Pascal from Orangepixel. Last week, or this recent week, what we're going to talk about in this video, I've been tinkering with the level editor that I created last week. Are we still on the same page? If you haven't seen last week's video, go check it out. I had to create a level editor for my new game and I was not in the mood to create it, but it had to be done. But now that I have it and have been playing with it all week, I'm very much in the mood and I'm very glad I did the whole step of creating the editor, because it's a lot of fun. I've been building a bunch of levels, tweaking it a lot, also changing the game, removing all the procedural generation code out of there, and we now load in level templates. Let's talk about that after the intro. So first thing to talk about, if you've been following this channel and me for a while, you know I love procedural generation and just using it for everything in my games. Pretty much it allows me to create a bunch more content by just creating code that then generates that content. I love it. But I've been struggling for Regulator City, this game, to create levels that are actually good or interesting, or just I couldn't get the procedural generation, the code to work as I wanted to. The problem for this game is that there are different areas, like we have a scrapyard, we have apartment buildings, we have storage rooms, we have hospitals. All these areas have different rule sets. You can't create an apartment building and then dump in a couple of containers and call it a scrapyard or a storage room or whatever. Those areas all needed different ways of generating those levels. It was just a lot of code and messy, and the results of that code weren't that interesting either. I was really stuck on it. I couldn't really get into the creation of this game because the areas, the gameplay areas, the levels, they were messy. They were not interesting at all, and I had to do something different. Level generator. That's what I've been making last week. Now I've created templates for the main area, so hospital, scrapyard, apartment building, storage room. Industrial, I think, it's not a storage room, I call that industrial because I also noticed I can create a bunch of different things now, like a garage with old cars in there. It's not a storage room, but it fits under the industrial label. Let me just first show you a little bit of stuff that I've been creating with the editor. Also, the editor has gone through some improvements since last week. It now looks pretty cool. All right, so let's boot up the game, go into the map view. This is the Patreon build I just pushed live, so patrons have the access to this version, and if you're on this screen and you press the F1 button, you'll get into the editor. First thing you'll notice is we have an actual area, we have a bunch of interesting buttons here, and it's all functioning. The first button at the top is load. Here we load in some templates. Let me change the camera a little bit. Here we load some templates, and these are the different areas I just mentioned. So we have headquarters, apartments, scrapyard, industrial, airfield, hospital, park. There might be a few more, but for now these are the things we have, and I created a first template for each of them. So let's go into apartments, and I say I created the first one because the second button allows me to pick one out of 16 designs, so we can put 16 different alternate versions of an apartment design in the level, and the computer will still randomly pick a design based on the building and then put certain mission in it. So we still have a lot of variation, but we certainly have a lot more cool stuff we can do with just building these levels. Like, for example, all these graphics, Dylan made them, the intern. These were originally made for park levels, but they can also function as a nice backyard or outside area for a certain apartment, which is what I did here. I had some trees there, some bushes. We'll be adding more of these things, and I want a fountain, and all these elements can now be placed wherever the editor, the designer, wants to. So you could, like, for example, once we add a fountain, I could just simply place a fountain right here in the living room or in the hallway or whatever. It doesn't matter where you place them, you can come up with some very creative stuff. Let me also load a scrapyard. As you can see, we also add enemies now. The one thing that was missing last week. We can now place enemies, and for now there's still one type of enemy, and that's this stupid dumb idiot that just stands there, might react to you when you're near and tries to kill you, but he's very harmless. There will be much better opponents and maybe people that will shoot rockets at you, stuff like that, I don't know. Scrapyard level, and then you can just add corridors. All these designs were not possible by the computer. When I did Procedural Generation, it was very hard. This sound almost looks like a dungeon, but if you compare this to, for example, a park, the layout is very different, and it just wasn't doable to do all of these things with code. And of course we can just jump into these levels. Let's pick a nice one. Industrial. Did I have that other design? No. Alright, let's just play this one. Press the play button and we'll be thrown into the game. This is where light and stuff also activates. The editor doesn't show you lights right now. So you can place the lights. You just don't see them in the editor. And that's how we can now play this game. And as you can see, this already looks a bit like a garage. There's a car in here. Some of these things are often seen in garages, and we can do a lot more interesting stuff with it. And we can jump back into the editor. As you can see, the white dots are lights. Right now it's just always a big light. We also have entities that create lights, like displays on computers will always give a little bit of a glow. Table lights will always give a certain glow, so that way you can also design the lights and how things look in the game. I might add some sort of function that you can actually change the way these lights, the size of them and the color, so that there's even more flexibility in how things will look once it's lit up. The airplane still needs a lot of work, just was a test thing to see if it works. And that's how my editor is now up and running, and I can actually edit a bunch of things. Let's do a quick little edit for this video, because I didn't really plan anything else today, sorry. It's been a bit hectic. We got some painters running around the house to paint the house, or the outside of the house, but that makes my whole work week a little bit different. Let's just create a little bit of an industrial area, and I'll show you how the editor functions and behaves. Now this is one wall type, and we have 3 versions in every tile set, so we can change a bit of the tile. It's not very flexible. There are 3 options per tile set, per graphic, but the type of tile sets are already linked to the area, so I might make that a lot more flexible, not sure yet. We can also change the floor within a certain area, so let's change it. Let's add another wall over here, like a big corridor that goes into this direction, and then we add another room over here. Oh, this was industrial. Well, doesn't make much sense. I probably not save this one, but we'll see. Let's make this an outside area with a wall around it, so we can put some junk in there. Then we of course have some doors. First the floors, hallway floor, nice industrial floor, and maybe get this a little bit of an outside patio type door, and we add doors to it. So we want a door in this hallway, we want a door here. This room will have 2 doors now. This one can also have another door on the side, why not? And then we can add some entities, which is another tile, or we can add some windows first. We can place some windows, and the boarded up windows, or all that stuff is still procedural and generated by the computer. So you can place windows there, but you never know if it will be an open window or not. That will vary per game. I just like having those type of things. I can see how some people might not like it in their editor like that, but well, this is my game, so this is how I'm making it. Let's create this garden type thing by putting a tree here, maybe a little bench. But we also want a bunch of junk here, because this is a industrial area. I'm currently working on adding all the factory graphics that Dylan has been making. They weren't in the game yet, so it's not all perfect yet, but we're getting there. There's a bunch more items that are coming into the game, but that just weren't in the game yet. All right, we can also place stuff on top of each other. There are 2 layers, so you can add, for example, let's see if I can find a table somewhere. Give me an empty, all right, we can do this, and let's put a light on top of it. If we placed on the same spot, there are now 2 entities at that spot. So first one is a table, or a cabinet in this case, and a light on top, and actually this one also has one by accident. So that way you can still place stuff on top of other stuff. It's only 2 levels high, so 1 entity and 1 thing on top of it. But it works and it functions, and that's the main thing. Let's quickly add a couple of lights here. Let's also add just some sunlight outdoor. We still need an entrance for our player, so let's make a door here. We put the player near that door, and that door will then automatically function as the entry to this area. Let's sprinkle some guys around this place, in the hallways and in the building. And let's quickly dive into the game, see how this looks. So the outside corridor area, this door would normally be open, but I'm not in an actual game, I'm in the editor. And we can now decide on which door to open. Do we go in from that door, or do we go in through this door? I think we go in through this door. Oh, I have my sound off, but you'll get the idea. So we take them out, and then we move into the main area very softly, not making a sound, and they spotted us and we killed them. A very simple area, but also very quickly created and done. And these areas will then function for our missions in the game. And that's my level editor in action. That's also pretty much everything I could and wanted and need to talk about this week about the game, because I've just been toying around with the level editor, been building levels. The whole saving code needed to be created, and then I had to strip out all that procedural generation code and a bunch of other code that wasn't needed anymore, and make sure the game loads in these levels. I actually designed a couple of awesome levels that nobody will ever see, because the editor had a little bug in there causing me to overwrite those levels. They're gone, they don't exist anymore, just in my memory. And since I'm turning 45, that memory is also getting lost a little bit. Anyway, I also have to mention that I was kind of stuck with Regulator City. To be honest, I didn't talk about that in the last couple of weeks, but I was a little bit stuck. The level design that the procedural generated code created, it just wasn't fun, interesting, it wasn't working. The missions, because of that, the missions didn't really turn into anything interesting. I was stuck, pretty sure. Now that I can create these levels, and I create or actually design like corridors and then put certain things there so that the player can hide behind it, it already writes the mission structure, and that was missing from the previous version. So I'm glad I did this editor, and I think I'm now unstuck again, so I can continue working on this game. I had a lot of new energy this week. I'm just creating these awesome levels, and of course also using all Dylan's awesome artwork, awesome art. Yeah, using all that, I can now also use it in more interesting ways. I previously would place beds in a bedroom and a cabinet in a living room, but now I can go crazy. I can create, like, maybe have a tree grow out of an apartment, and it sounds weird, but it sometimes looks pretty cool. And we can now mix all these things, and we have like hospital beds and factory stuff, and by mixing and combining all those things, we get funny and interesting areas. And then adding doors in interesting ways, we can almost write missions in there by just having a good layout. And the next phase is, of course, creating those missions. But for that, we just needed a good area to play around in, which we now have. Next week is going to be episode 200. 200 weeks of weekly videos. Yeah, it's gonna be big. Well, it's not gonna be big, it's just gonna be another video. I'll talk about what YouTube brought me as a game developer. Also, why did I start doing YouTube videos as a game developer. Also, getting out of my comfort zone, because as easy as it is now, I can just turn on the camera, start talking, and I'll have a video done in like, I'm now doing this for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, almost done with it. I'll edit it, it will all be done and ready to go in like 40-50 minutes top. And it actually looks like I planned everything I'm saying. I didn't. This is just me turning on the camera, talking to you. But if you look at my first couple of videos, it was just very awkward and wasn't that smooth. Also, it was just very out of my comfort zone, and we're gonna talk about all that stuff next week. So I hope you'll tune in next week. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. And I'll see you next week. Maybe I'll just stop by doing that 200 video and then call it the end. Nah, I'll keep doing this for a while. Pretty sure. All right, see you next week. Bye. I just recorded a whole bit with my microphone front to back because I talking about being good at this after 200 videos. Yeah. All right, I'll just redo that bit. No problem. Add 10 minutes and it will be done. All right, bye.